Hello, this is Dr. John Smelser. Welcome to another episode of Ahtna 101. This is episode 111. We were working on trees that grow specifically in Ahtna country. And I don't know if I told you, but the word in general for a tree, like look at those trees over there, is just chibali. But when you get specific, if you're talking about alder, and there's an alder that we call red alder, but alder in general is just kes. If you're from Mentasta, our northernmost village, they say kekuk. And we talked a bit about that. Let's talk about Sitka alder. It's a different kind of alder, and its word in Ahtna is kankaya. The word kon, remember, means fire, and so what it means basically is fire willow, because they're red, because they have the red cambium underneath when you pull back the bark. And so we call them the red willows. If you're from Mentasta, they call that konke. In most ways, these cambium inside the plant are used a lot for a lot of things, from dyes to making a tea to just chewing the sap to relieve headache or sore mouths, sore throats, and things of that nature. My grandma used to do that. She'd have me go out and collect specific saps for when I had any kind of an ailment, and she would have me do very traditional healing. A quaking aspen. That's not, it grows in very specific conditions, usually on hillsides, usually southern facing, and usually one big patch, no matter how far it looks, is all related to one tree. One tree to the whole thing. That's how quaking aspens work. And we call that ta-wes. If you're from Mentasta, our northernmost village, you may say ta-wes bai. And bai usually means what? Almost like guy. And quaking aspen is used a lot of things. It's very, very common. Very common. Let me talk about some of the things that we use that for. It's used for bait. For if you're setting a beaver trap. You've got your beaver trap in the winter and you want the beaver to come eat something. The leaves of aspen are one of their favorites. So they'll come up to the trap because they want those nice green boughs that you hid there for them. We'd use them for all kinds of things. Paper birch, the birch tree. The common birch tree, but the kind that has where it peels, the outer bark peels off in big sheets of almost like paper. We call that just K. If you're Dena'ina, which is a neighboring native language, they almost say K. They say chukke. So only a little bit different, but really the same word. And we use paper birch for a lot of things. A lot. I mean, we peel it off to make baskets. We've peeled it off to make homes. You can sew or stitch, if you will, with root or weed. Grass. You can stitch them together and make kind of a tarp, generally for like sitting on when you're a hunter-gatherer and you just want some nice thing to sit on, just like a modern person wants a tarp to sit on sometimes. Or why do we go on picnics and we put out a picnic blanket? Well, we used the bark sewed together as a kind of a tarp. We use, all kinds of things. It's a slower burning wood. Birch is one of the better woods for burning. Birch can make honey. We can use it for honey. Syrup is what I meant, not honey. We use it to make a syrup, a birch syrup. It's very yummy. It's lighter than maple. Alaskan gift shops have all kinds of Alaska birch syrups for sale. You'll see that. It can be used to boil sometimes to make a dye that we'll use when we're dyeing, say, skin. So tan skin that we're using on snowshoes and skins in general, and we just want that color. They've been used for houses. They've been stitched together as a tarp. Here's an interesting fact. When we wrap human remains in birch bark. That's what we do, or traditionally have done, was to wrap the human remains in birch bark, especially the ashes if we did the cremation. You can make a bull moose collar. A bull moose makes a sound like this. And you can amplify that sound using a horn, kind of like remember what do they call those horns where you yell into them, those just shaped things you talk out loud like a megaphone. They look like a megaphone, and you shape them like that, and they can help carry that sound deeper and further. You can also do it with a coffee can, just a big old regular coffee can. We used to do that. You tie a hole, pull a rope through it, knot both sides, and as you pull the rope, it makes this sound, just like a bull moose, and they'll come running in, and then you can, harvest them. Um, we use them for all kinds of things to make almost anything you can fashion them of. There's reports that you can use the bark, the cambium, that inside the tree, the living part of the tree that's under the bark, and turn it into an alcoholic beverage. It's the only real alcoholic beverage I know of that Alaska Natives make traditionally. I know around the world, indigenous people make all kinds of alcoholic beverages involving spit and saliva and all kinds of things, but this is the only one I know of. Um, it can be eaten, the cambium of a birch tree, in times of necessity, famine. You can mix it with a little bit of lard that you've saved from the summer from bears and wolves and moose and caribou, and you can mix it, and it was edible enough and can sustain you. It's not exactly something on our menu nowadays. Anyhow, there's a lot of things that are used of those trees because they're everywhere and they're part of the resources we use. I hope I've helped you with this. We'll go on the next episode. Hope you'll join me.